descent.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are watching my stream or watching my video on demand. I'm the MiniPaintingDM, and today I'm going to be finishing up some character models for my Ghost of Saltmash campaign, which is going to be actually starting today. After I'm done with the stream today, later on this evening, we will be having our first session. So I'm going to be finishing up two of the character models, the Dragonborn Paladin here, as well as the Dwarf Rogue, doing the base rims on them. I need to finish the basing on these characters over here, which we painted last time. And then, if I have time today, I'm going to try to get these other three bandits over here done as well. Been making some slight tweaks to my setup, as I do every time. So trying some new titles and descriptions. As always, I am streaming on both Twitch and YouTube, but if you want to join the chat and interact with me live on the chat, it is better to come over to Twitch because I'm monitoring the chat on Twitch. Actually, I think I have it turned off on YouTube. So again, if you want to join the chat, come over to Twitch and hang out. I was hoping to get my cup of coffee done before I started the stream, but it didn't quite finish, so I'm just going to run into the kitchen real fast and grab that, and I'll be right back. Alright, we got our giant tavern stein of Joe. Ready to rock and roll. Got this from a local artist this year at the CMAG convention. That's the creative... Well, no, not CMAG. It was the... Sorry, CMAG is specifically the Metal and Arts Guild. The Gathering of the Guilds convention, where we're a bunch of local hand artisan folks that get together once a year at the convention center and show off their work. And this particular piece is a hand-thrown ceramic mug that looks like an old-timey-wimey stein. So I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get that for Dungeons and Dragons playing. All right, so a couple of things. Sadly, this here cape ended up turning out pretty goddamn shiny. I don't know why. But yeah, I've even tried putting a matte varnish on it to try to bring down the shininess of it. And it has sort of averaged out the cape a little bit. Believe it or not, it was actually shinier. But yeah, it's a little sad. I don't like that it's so shiny. I might go in with dry brushing and try to bring that down. Speaking of which, I'll be right back. I need to grab some paper towel. Alright. My head is just not screwed on right today. Alright, so other than getting all this done, I'd love to hit my stream goal today, 40 subscribers. I was hoping to get that done by the end of the month, but you know, I had a dentist appointment on Friday that knocked me out pretty bad. So I didn't really have an opportunity to stream on Friday. And also decided to give myself the weekend since I was streaming all week. So I didn't quite hit that goal, but it'd be nice if I hit it today. So we'll see. Alright. First things first, we're going to throw some metallics on this guy. And as I've said in previous streams, I really don't like doing metallics until it's the last thing. But it is pretty important to get this particular model done today, because it's, you know, it's a player character model. As always, I like to start off with putting some Lamia medium in a dry palette like this, just to help smooth out the metallic paint. Metallic paint can be rather thick. We're going to be using Vallejo Model Color Natural Steel. Just going to try and mix it up a little bit in the vortex mixer. Did I unplug it somehow? What's going on? Vortex mixer. Huh. Totally offbeat today. Let's see if we can fix that. There we go. Vortex mixer's working now. Alright. Drop some natural steel in there. We're going to be covering all of his armor with natural steel. Then we're going to be doing some highlights later with chainmail silver. It's a bit of a brighter color. Again, just want to mix it up really good with the Lamia medium so it gets a little bit smoother and less thick and chunky. I prefer the Lamia medium over water. Now we will have to wash out this paint pot after we're done with the metallics, because I really don't like having metallic flakes floating in our paint water when we start painting other stuff. So it's totally fine as long as we're doing all these metallics, but once we're done, we'll clean out the paint water. Alright. So just going over pretty much all of his metal areas. I'm not going to go too crazy in trying to get all of the recessed areas. And if it's a little uneven, that's okay. We just really want to just give enough of a coverage that this gray that we've pre-painted on there now has a metallic sheen. We're going to go back over later with a gloss wash. That will give it more, bring back some of the shadows, because we will inevitably, you know, just average everything out here with the shadows. The chainmail silver will, after the wash, we'll go back in with the chainmail silver and try to hit some of the highest highlights. Sort of do a good highlighting of the model. We of course want to try to avoid any of the cloth, because at this point fixing cloth would be very hard. When we're near the cloth or any place else that is not metal, we just really want to do a good job of creating a nice clean line. Now is the step where we want to be as clean as possible, because that's going to make the model, you know, pop that much better later if we're clean here. Now if I really want to be neurotic, I could have done something different, like with the, looks like there was a little bit of like padding maybe between the metal joints right there. I could have left that the gray color instead of painting on more metallic. But I thought about it after the fact, and it's fine. Now some of these areas are going to be really hard to hit with the cape being here. This is part of the advantage of why we did that gray undercoat. Got a little bit on the back of the foot there. I just made sure to use a wet brush, sort of like pick up the paint, like wash it off. Yeah, some of the leg parts here are going to be hard to get. Looks like I did a really piss poor job of getting out of the leg here before, even with the gray paint. Just want to get something down. Focus on the most visible areas. If some of the less visible areas you don't have perfect coverage with the metallic, that's okay. Better to not paint those areas and leave them just the gray than risk getting silver on the cape. So make an effort. I'm doing here. But no, it doesn't have to be perfect. because if you have areas that are sort of not, you know, maybe under the leg or whatever, and it is only the gray instead of silver or steel colored, again, that's fine, because when you're at the tabletop, people aren't going to see all that detail anyways. They're going to be looking at the highest point of the model. They're going to be looking at his, you know, his chest, his head. And when we get this armor done, and it's done and it's highlighted, you know, whether or not under his leg is properly metal versus gray is completely insignificant. Now it's going to feel, as you're putting on these metallics over the contrast paint, it's going to feel like you're losing detail because, you know, contrast paint does such a good job of calling out detail, and you're putting just a flat color over this whole area that's very opaque. If you're putting it on thin enough with medium, and you know, you're not putting it on chunky, then just trust that you are not losing detail. And if you're concerned at all, you can sort of go in with some water and actually thin it out a lot. You'll have some of the gray showing through, but that's okay. It'll just look like tarnish. But point is, you'll feel like you might be losing detail, but as long as you're thinning your paint properly, you won't be. You'll just feel that way going from contrast to something that's so opaque. And you'll see it again when we go to put the wash on. All that detail is going to come out and pop again. So just take your time in this step. This is the last big step, because the washing step will go really, really fast. Now I've got some area right here where there's actually, it's just primer there. And I don't want to paint it green, I don't want to paint it white. I actually just want to create some shadow there. So I'm just going to pull out my black Templar. I'm going to pull out a brush that I haven't been using. Actually, no, this is Black Legion, not Black Templar. Black Legion is just black. I'm going to slap some of this in here and just create some shadow. Some really, really dark shadow. This is the underside. Actually, gonna mix it in a little bit with the metallic paint right here. Just kind of doing some blending. This is not just black. There we go. That's much better. All right. switching back to a larger brush, looking around, looking for any areas where we don't have metallics down. At least raised areas. Areas that are most noticeable, like his arm. Being careful not to get it on his hand. When we do, wash it off. Now what I'm not going to try to do is get the underside of his arm here. That's a very hard area to hit without getting paint all over it. I mean, as it is, when I was priming under his arm, I did get a little bit of primer on his hand here. So I'm just not going to go down there. I think having it be gray is fine. It's going to be really dark once we put shadows in there anyways. I'm going to hit this. Alright. Okay. Alright, pretty happy with that. Looks good. It'll look even better once we put the wash on, but now we have to do the gold details that we're going to do on his hilt and his pommel using Vallejo Model Color Old Gold for this. And once we're done with these metallics, we're going to sit and just let it dry and move on to painting some of these other guys while that is drying. With everything else, you don't need 100% perfect coverage with this. We undercoated it with a brown. So if there's any little areas of not perfect coverage, it's okay, because we're gonna do a brown wash on this anyways. Now, I'm not going to do highlights on the sword, but if you did want to do highlights on the sword, you could use the same chainmail silver, because, you know, when gold needs highlights, it gets, you know, you're supposed to be roasting when there's a lot of light reflecting off of it, and it has very white, almost silvery shine at the tips. So that's what you could do. All right. I think we're going to dive into these guys now. Since we have metallics on the palette, I'm just going to jump in and try to hit metallics on these characters here. Now normally I would undercoat this before putting metallics on. And you'll see why. It's just much harder to get a, you know, a clean, thin coat with a metallic if you don't have an undercolor. But you know what? I'm just gonna do it. Try to stay thin, and if they end up being brighter because of it, it's fine. Looks like he's got a little dagger here on his belt. It's not sheathed. This guy is going to be pretty fun to paint, I think. Crossbowman. I'll call out any of these metallic details on the crossbow. Sure, this would be metal too. Sort of mechanism at the top. That would all be wood. Looks like he's got some throwing darts right here. Throwing knives. Okay, and then last but not least, we got this guy with his stabby stab. Looks like he too has some stakes. Are they? Oh, I think these are pittons. like a proper dungeoneer would have. All right. That's good. All right. Beep beep boop boop. Use some of this gold here. This guy's cutlass. Don't sit on your cutlass, so you'll be buttless. Alright, with that, I'm going to do a quick wash of my paint pot and my dry palette. Transform this. Look at that. Alright, and I will be right back. Alright, and I'm back. Told you it'd be fast. Okay, so I think these guys are going to go pretty damn fast. And I'm just going to start grabbing some paints. Gonna need some skeleton horde. Gonna need some snakebite leather. So there's lots of leather on these guys. Totally missed this guy's hands. Oh no, I didn't. He's wearing gloves. I did say I want him to be a blonde, and the best paint that I found for painting blonde is this Nazdreg yellow. Just really great job with blonde hair. Actually, let's just paint the hair first. So we got Nazdreg yellow for him, and then I totally want this big oaf of a dude to be a ginger. Great color for ginger is Griffhound orange. Griffhound orange and Nazdreg yellow are both one of those colors that deceptively you don't think you have to mix well. Nazdreg yellow doesn't separate that much, but Griffhound orange definitely does. So if you want the best effect with contrast paint or any of the speed paint lines from other manufacturers, you really gotta mix them well if you want them to behave as intended. Alright. Gonna paint our ginger boy. Let's see how quick and easy this is. Now, really detailed parts of the hair like this, where there's really, you know, WizKids did a really good job of modeling this so that the hair has, you know, indents and recesses. It's good to drag your brush across it instead of with the hair, because that's what's going to ensure is that the contrast paint really gets deposited as you drag it across the brush, that it's depositing that in the cracks. Now, when I'm at a hairline, I like to paint in the direction of the hair so that the microscopic little differences in my bristles on the end of my brush as it's touching the skin creates little inconsistencies on where the skin starts and the hair begins. Hair is one of those things where you don't want a super clean line between, you want a slightly imperfect line between where the skin stops and the hair starts. It's a little bit more believable that way if you have little tiny inconsistencies, and the best way you can do that is using the front of your brush to sort of begin the hair. Look at that. Nice ginger boy. Let's do our blonde. Last time I painted a blonde roguelike character, my party members called him Shaggy. It's pretty hilarious. So maybe this guy will be Shaggy 2.0. I'm getting a little bit of the blonde paint on his eye patch. That's okay. We're going to use black paint to paint the eye patch, so it's not a big deal. Get a little bit on the eye patch, especially where, you know, the back of his head here conveniently has sculpted the hair ends where the eye patch begins. Maybe not. I'm just gonna give the impression of more hair back here. There we go. I don't like it conveniently ending where the eye patch begins. But yeah, especially right here where it's like going over the eye patch, around the ear. Just don't fret, just go right over it. Get his sideburns there. There we go. Oh yeah, that's actually much more believable. There we go, look at that face. It's great. Alright. Next thing I want to paint is some wood. It's always good when you're kind of organically deciding on colors and models like this that you go with the stuff that makes the most sense first. You know, you've decided how you want to paint it, and then, you know, switch things up. I'm going to stick to the number 1 brush here. I think the number 2. It's a little bit too big for these smaller details on these WizKids models. Anyways, I know that there's going to be lots of leather color on this model, so I'm really making sure that when I'm painting the handle here, you know, I'm using wildwood because it's just a really dark color that's going to stand out and contrast with the leather. Another thing I'm doing here, you might be seeing me, I'm sort of like line highlighting behind the sword. Now we're going to go in with leather, and we're going to paint the glove, but in these areas where it's like it's just his hand, I want to make sure that there's a nice good deep contrast where hand ends and sword hilt begins. Okay. Other things we want to paint. Oh, the top of this dagger there. Yeah, really just sort of enjoy this part of the process. I think a lot of times, you know, when you're following a painting tutorial or a painting guide, they've got it all figured out and they're just showing you what they've figured out. But I think the more important thing is learning how to paint for yourself, how to decide colors and contrast and what complementary colors are. And some of that just takes experience. Some of that's based on a lot of things like color theory. I personally believe that a lot of it is just, you just need the experience of painting and having a good eye for color. I think sometimes people can go overboard with color theory, and you'll see these paint schemes that have like fluorescent orange next to like a blue or a purple. It's like, yeah, but how realistic is that? You created like something that like really pops visually, but like how realistic is that? I don't know, maybe this is a stylistic choice, but I personally prefer an art style that is a little bit closer to reality, which means I'm going to be using more muted tones, and, you know, sometimes a guy is just wearing all brown. It doesn't look the greatest from a contrast perspective, but if that's what he's wearing, that's what he's wearing. Now, I will look for opportunities on a character that's just wearing a whole bunch of leather to call out the details with color. And we'll be doing that today because a lot of these guys are going to be mostly wearing, you know, they're mostly wearing leathers. But you'll see, there'll be a lot of color on them, especially when I do something fun with our Ginger's pants. One thing I don't think I've talked a lot about on the channel is just scaling the amount of effort you want to put in versus the time that you have available. And that's important to consider, you know. Is how much time do you have? How many minis do you need to prepare for the campaign? How willing are you to use proxies or not? And I think a lot of that comes down to you know, what your normal day is like, what kind of availability you have, and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, all those things you should definitely consider, you know, as you're developing your campaign plan. But what I can tell you is, the better you plan, the more you will be prepared to deliver on whatever plan you've come up with. Like, if I didn't noted, I have a lot of free time on my hands right now. But even when I don't have a lot of free times on my hand, and I have a full-time job and a girlfriend and everything else, I do make sure to keep a high standard in terms of minis and campaigns. And really, that's just the art of knowing where your players are at, knowing how far in advance you have to plan, planning it, and then staying on top of it. You know, I have a lot of free time right now, but pretty soon I'm not going to. And I'm actually looking forward to that. But I don't know what to do with his colors. We're going to put him aside. But again, I will rest easy knowing that I've got a plan. And once I'm done with these minis, and the few remaining minis that are in here, I've got tons of minis that I've already printed, that are already just needing to be primed, and I just need to keep a pace ahead of my party. Usually, you know, 1 to 2 levels ahead of where they currently are in the content. And when you do get ahead, don't rest on your laurels. Like, just find a day or two during the week that you have time to commit to the hobby, and just do it. You know, I find that it's like a gym membership or anything else that you want to do, whether it's for fun or you know, improving something in your life, like a diet or whatever. When you make a commitment, you're more likely to keep up with it. And in this case, it's a commitment to. Anyways, it's a commitment to. In my case, it's a commitment to making sure that I don't put unpainted models on the table. That's what keeps me going. All right, 2 of these guys have like these like over shoulder hood things. This guy obviously does not. Does have a belt. I'm gonna paint that next. I like using skeleton horde for any kind of rope-like things on characters. It's a pretty good color for that. All right. Now for any kind of like roping like this, it's really important that you just put plenty on, so that way plenty of it goes into the recesses, but also so that the highest points don't just look white either. So I find that if you just load up your brush with plenty of paint and just follow it, you'll get plenty. Every once in a while, if I don't see like there's enough in the recesses, I'll just sort of move the brush across the face like that. I'll just make sure to deposit extra in there. Okay, I like that. A few other little tiny details that I just want to burp, burp, burp. Little cross hatch there on that. All right. A bunch of these guys have potions on them. I'm going to paint the potions with Blood Angels red, like they're healing potions. Again, I'm just sort of working my way around the model, looking for details like this, trying to call them out. Because I haven't quite decided on how to paint the whole thing yet. But the more areas of color that you do figure out, the easier it'll be to make decisions on the rest. Like now that we've got the belt painted on this guy and a potion of healing and everything else, what color his pants will be guided by that. Alright, snakebite leather, I need you. Little tiny brush here. Just want to get these straps going around the potion. Sort of fixing the potion to this rope belt thing. I'm gonna paint this. This feels like it's a leather scabbard. If you notice, I painted the skeleton horde first, and then now I'm doing the rest of the scabbard, the little skeleton horde roping. The reason why I did it in that order is, again, it allowed me to sort of avoid it. Give me a second, I'm getting a phone call. I will be right back. Alright, there we go, I'm back. Sorry about that quick interruption. Alright. So now that I've got snakebite leather out, I'm putting some leather paint on him. He's got some straps. He's got some bracers. And you'll see this model will just start getting done really fast now. That's the beauty about this contrast paint method. Like, you just get these, you know, sometimes fairly detailed models like this one done pretty quickly. Contrast is just going to call out all the detail here. We got to be careful, like he's got like a two-part arm strap situation and some of his flesh is exposed there. So actually I'm second guessing whether that's flesh or not. I don't think so. We're gonna convert that into leather. I think I thought it was flesh at one time, but like looking at it more in detail now, it's like that's clearly just a layered leather shoulder pad. Went to a Renaissance fair once and got myself fitted for a really nice leather shoulder pad, just like this one that had like layered plates. It was surprisingly powerful, like how sturdy it was. And a lot of people assume, oh, leather is like flexible, but when it's cured in the right way for like armor purposes, it's actually incredibly hard. Alright, so on his hand here, there's more of like a little straps. We'll do that in Skeleton Horde. Again, any kind of like roping or like bandagey looking stuff, I like to use Skeleton Horde. It is right next to his skin, so that's problematic, but we did do his skin as more of a darker sunburnt skin tone. There we go. Switch back to our snakebite leather. Finish this vambrace, or bracer rather. Little Skeleton Horde right there. Still not happy with. So I missed the back half of the bracer. There we go. Boom. Look at that. Look at that guy. Now, I haven't decided what I want to do with the boots. Whether I want the boots to be, you know, leather. I mean, clearly the leather, but I want to be black leather or brown leather. I don't know. I think I'm going to do a dark leather, which is a two-step process. I do snakebite leather first, and then I use a gray paint, silicone gray, and it's this great, like, black leather look. I've done it several times just in this last set of models, but you'll be seeing it again today on stream because I think that's what I'm going to do. See, at this point I don't want the model to look too brown, so if I just did the boots as brown, then, you know, that would be, you know, almost be forced into painting his pants like a complementary color to brown. But if I do his boots closer to black, like my dark leather look, that means I'm free to explore different colors with his pants. Now, I haven't decided what that's going to be yet. We're just going to put him down for now. We're going to start working on some of these other guys. Couple things. I want to do a quick Google image search here. And I'm searching for rogue with hood. And I'm doing this just to get different color inspirations. I kind of like that. That's again more of a black hood. Got like this design where the hood is more of a black with brown leather below. I think I like that look there. Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. Which I guess fits closer to what I did here. But here I did it as just black hood. I think I'm gonna do it a little bit different here. I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go all over with the leather color, and then we're gonna call out, well, we need to hit our potion, because this guy's got a potion too. He's got a coin purse. I think in the case of this guy's coin purse, we're going to do it with Skeleton Horde. So that way, again, it's obviously this coin purse is leather, but maybe it's a lighter leather. He also has like a rope situation here. I'm just gonna boom, boom, boom. Move that through there. Yeah, that's good with me. Now I really want his quiver to stand out from the rest of his leathers. So I'm going to switch to Cygor Brown here for the quiver. This will really make the arrow stand out even more. If we have this really dark quiver next to arrows that have white feathers. Now I could have gone with any feathers here, but I used Apothecary White, so I really just wanted, again, more contrasting colors. They're really gonna stick out. Now Cygor Brown is an incredibly dark color, doesn't have a lot of contrast to it, but again, some of these more opaque colors from contrast, two things: A, mix them really, really well, but B, they will dry darker than they look initially. Slap it on, let it dry, don't worry, the highlights will be there. Just initially it looks completely like an opaque brown. If you put it on one smooth coat, you'll get contrasting colors. But see, look, now that is going to look visibly different in the crossbow. But this whole model in general is going to feel very brown. And that's okay. Like, they're Rogan Bandits. They're wearing leathers. All right. Potions. We're totally gonna get through these minis today. Not gonna be a problem. Skeleton Horde? No, that's Ezra Heal. Get out of here. We don't need you anymore. Skeleton Horde? Now, I highly would recommend if you use contrast paint like I do, and you're swapping between different colors quickly, or, you know, batch paint, just whatever. If you want to go quickly, I highly recommend having multiple of these little paint holders. Now, these are made by Citadel. They don't make them anymore. I don't know why. It's a great product. But I'm sure there's 3D printed equivalents out there that people have come up with. Whatever your solution, just definitely have a solution for your paint. Thing that holds your paint. So what you don't want is paint spilling. Happens all the time. People post, oh look, I joined the club. I just spilled my entire wash or contrast paint or whatever. Hey, how's it going, the Mad Teabagger? I'm doing great. Finishing up the last few models here for the start of my Ghost Saltmarsh campaign, which is starting tonight. So, just trying to get the last few of them painted here in the next couple hours. Won't even need that long. Painting these guys is going really fast. Snake bite leather. Snake bite leather time. Alright, so this is going to be the lighter brown. We're going to have dark up there. It's going to be the lighter brown down here. Yeah, okay, good. Now, to give this guy a little bit more color, I might do something different with his pants. So I think I'm going to avoid this pants area. I don't know why I'm being so careful here. I should be just going over this whole area. So I'm going to go through after the fact with Basilicum Gray, and we're going to make the areas that we want to be dark leather. So I'm just going to go over actually this whole upper area with snakebite. Then we'll go back after the fact and clean up or do Basilicum Gray, which will make the dark leather stand out. Ooh. Alright, and oh man, I'm getting super messy here. From the Amazon guy, I finished my first mini. Ain't away horns, but the first mini, I think it's, yeah, man, first mini is a great starting point. That's fantastic. You said it was a mini off Amazon. Was it a WizKids mini? I know I asked you that last time, but I forgot. what we don't want to do is get paint on his face here. So, well, it might be really tempting to try to just shove my brush in there and get some of this dark paint in there, which I'm going to do anyways. If you do, just make sure to wash off the face, the wet brush. There we go. I was tempted, I did it anyways, and I fixed it. But you could always choose not to, because, you know, like, the deep crevice of his neck is not something that's super noticeable anyways. This is a mini from Etsy. That's right. Okay. So this is probably a 3D printed mini that somebody else printed that you bought on Etsy kind of thing. One of those professional, you know, will 3D print it for you sort of Etsy stores. Kind of looks like the Disney witch from Snow White. Oh, that's cool. Maleficent. Alright, getting a lot of pooling here from the jacket. Decided to bleed down here into the belt. Not great. Again, we're just going to go in there with a dry brush. Try to pick up as much of that excess paint as possible. There we go. All right. And he looks great just like that. I don't know. I still want to do dark leather in a couple of places, but honestly, he looks. There's so much detail in the model that gets called out by the contrast. It's really cheater. I will read your latest comment in just a second. I am super focused here. Was playing around with speed paints and some regular paints. I do really like. Yeah, man, speed paints are great. I mean, I haven't used the speed paints, but I mean they're basically army painters' answer to contrast. So I've used speed paints, spiritual successors. You'll find that the more detailed the model and the smaller the model, the easier it is to paint with speed paints or contrast paint. When you start getting into like larger models, that's where, like, you know, or just models that have large flat areas, but you'll have that more, or large cylindrical areas. You'll have that more with larger models, right? Large, relatively speaking. All right, those two are looking good. I think I might just repeat the process with this guy, focusing on the sort of leather tunic and the boots, and leave the pants blank. I really don't know what I want to do with the color scheme on the pants, but again, this is one of the beautiful things about batch painting like this, is we can keep making progress while we let the other paint dry between steps, but also gives us the opportunity to continue to think about what we want the rest of the model to look like. We're not rushing. We can both rush and not rush at the same time. Rushing in the sense that we're always doing something, always putting paint on a model, making good use of our time, but not rushing on an individual model. I bought myself an airbrush. No, man, buying an airbrush is not going overboard. That is a very smart decision. The sooner you start using an airbrush, the happier you will be. I mean, even if you just use it for priming your models, and the occasional zenithal highlighting, and I would highly recommend that for larger models. If you go back and you look at my Alaxian the Callus video from a couple weeks ago, that shows an excellent example of a larger form model. It's a big angel, and what zenithal highlighting will do to improve the overall paint job. So again, highly recommend you try zenithal highlighting with your airbrush. Priming first, then once you got the priming down, then zenithal highlighting, especially on bigger models. I don't think it's really worth it with small 32mm models, but definitely with larger or large 32mm models like big monsters or something. Or dragon, or pretty much anything with wings. Airbrushes are super cheater for wings. But yeah, good on you, man. What model did you get? Was it the Badger 105 by chance? If so, good choosing. Nice. Everybody loves a good dragon to paint. This guy's got some leg straps here. Even though I haven't decided what I want to paint his pants, I'll just carefully get these leg straps. Fun fact for the Final Fantasy fans out there. I can't remember the name of the character. Again, Lulu, I think is her name, from Final Fantasy X. this like mage, and she's got like a shit ton of belts going around her. Like she literally has a dress made out of belts. Apparently that was a technical challenge that was presented to the dev team to try to push them to new heights of software engineering and make it actually function with decent performance on the PlayStation. What was that, PlayStation 2 at the time? Was that he wanted her belts, her dress, to be made out of like however many goddamn belts it was, and for each belt to be individually rendered instead of just a texture that looked like a bunch of belts. Oh man, I gotta catch up on chat. Give me a second. I bought an airbrush kit with compressor and stuff, but I'm sure it won't be long before upgrade. And the 105 is very much on my radar. Yeah, I have recommended the 105 to several people, and they have loved it. It's what I personally use. It's pretty much, I mean, if you look at any YouTuber or anyone out there that does reviews of products for the hobby, I'm pretty sure it's universally agreed that the Badger 105 is like the airbrush to get. Yes, there are better airbrushes out there, but it's a pretty significant price jump from the Badger to the quote-unquote better airbrushes. And so the Badger is in this beautiful sweet spot of, it's really not that expensive, relatively speaking, and the bang for your buck is huge with it. And you know, I personally use it. I've used it for years. The one thing that's important is to not skimp on your compressor. The difference between a tankless compressor, I want to avoid this guy's mask because I might do something different with the mask color, since it definitely looks cloth instead of leather. Even if I just do it black, I'd rather it look like black cloth than the dark leather that will be his hood. Anyways, 105. Really good. Highly recommend it. Hope you have fun. I will tell you this. If you're working with a lesser airbrush, it may be like you might get frustrated just because it is a lesser airbrush. Like, I started off with like just a pretty cheap airbrush initially, and I tried and I tried and I tried, and it wasn't getting sort of the clean paint jobs, and everything was like chalky or thin or runny, or like it just, or was spitting a lot. Like I just couldn't get what I wanted. And then I finally tried I tried the 105, and you know, I guess all I'm saying is if you try it out and you get frustrated, sometimes it's your hardware, not you. All right, what do I want to do now? I need to decide what I'm gonna paint these guys' pants. Now, a bunch of these characters I've already painted. I'm using purple in the paint scheme, but I don't think I want to do that. You know, I'm thinking about, yes, I need to paint for this campaign, but I also want to think about these guys as just generic bandits. And I don't want to like paint myself into a corner with their color scheme. I think what I might want to do is just this Flesh Terror's red. I don't know, I really want his pants to be super colorful, so I might do something different with him. Actually, you know what? Here's what we'll do. I think I might do just like jean color for the pants for these two guys, and I'll just do something wild and crazy with his. So my favorite contrast paint for painting any kind of like blue jean color is Ultramarines Blue. As I showed on a different stream when I painted up this dwarf, also with Ultramarines Blue, this paint separates pretty terribly. Because it does have some pretty great highlights in it. It's like a different pigment that has like this really bright white highlight. It makes it great for jeans. Number 2 brush. Is this what color I want? No. You know what? I changed my mind. I think I know what I want to do. I'm going to use a color I rarely use. I think I'm going to like this better. So this paint is a greenish gray. I think I want to do the greenish gray because I want them to blend in more in a foresty way. Again, they're bandits, right? Bandits are gonna be like, oh, we're gonna like jump you on the road. And I think they would want to wear colors that are a little bit more. Actually, I don't want that color either. Let's go with like a camo green. I have a couple of different greens that are like camo-ish greens. Militarum green? Let's do Militarum green. This is one of those paints that seriously separates. Nice. Yeah, the one thing to keep in mind about Vallejo is, right, they've got the different lines. They've got like the game color line, then they've got the more army painter line. And the different lines have very different finishes to them. The game color line has a little bit more of a glossy finish, whereas the army painter line has more of a matte finish. Because the audiences for the two lines are very different. I think the Army Painter line is really designed more for people who are painting like scale model airplanes and tanks and that kind of thing. Whereas the Game Color line, I think they formulated more to the miniature crowd. And then I think that the model color line is kind of your base colors that are sort of the in-between. But yeah, definitely just keep that in mind if you use. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy with this. This feels more like a guy that's gonna jump you on the road, ask you for a toll. Yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it. This is Militarum Green, which for those people out there who love playing Astra Militarum, aka the Imperial Guard in 40k, this is sort of like the signature green for those guys. But it's also a really just great like foresty green. There is also Creed Camo, which is a little bit more darker bluish green, but I thought this green would fit with the leather better. a big bag of bases. Nice. Hey, how's it going?
Good, it's gonna be the chapter.
Hold up, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. Alright, so got these guys' pants painted. Just need to do this guy's pants. Colors, colors, colors. I really want his pants to be like really wild. Really wild. We're gonna do this insane color right here. There's something about these like vertically striped pants that I can't help but just do crazy wild colors with them. So we're gonna do this. And this honestly seems like a guy that doesn't give any fucks and would purposely wear pants like this just to be like, oh, you got a problem with my pants? Also, it's like, you know, he's sort of like the brute of the group and wants to like get your attention so the other guys can sneak around and like stab you in the back. So yeah, he's not trying to be stealthy. He wants to get in your face. He wants to show you what's up. Like, I am the brute squad. Alright, got a little bit there on the pouch. Just gonna clean it off. There we go. So when you say you ordered a shit ton of bases, is that like printed bases that actually have like textures on them already? Or you mean like just boring gray plastic bases? I mean, assume if you're trying out different painting techniques, these are like printed bases that actually have like textures on them already. Love it. This guy looks great. Love it. Alright, gonna use some, wherever the heck it is, Black Templar. I'm gonna paint some small details in Black Templar. The whole point of painting these small details with Black Templar is to just call out the details, make them stick out from other parts of the model and break things up. As far as these pitons are concerned, I'm wanting to like create some nice shade on the underside of them. That black will help call them out as being more silver metallic. Did notice that the handle of this blade needs to be called out on the bottom side. Putting a little bit of wildwood there. There we go. Alright. I think it's Basilicum Gray time. This is the paint I was talking about that gives us it will give us the dark leather look. I want to use this on areas that we want the color, where there's a lot of leather and we want to break up the leather into two different shades of leather. So like his little shoulder pad thing there, we're going to do all of the boots on him this color. And this is contrast over contrast, so we're getting the brown but also gray. We just want to paint it on relatively thin. We don't want to put it on super thick, so we do want the brown leather color to shine through. We're just darkening it here essentially. If there's any places where it feels like you're not seeing any of the brown underneath, you kind of just clean it up. Make sure you don't get a lot of pooling if you're doing this. This is not the kind of effect where we want like deep saturation or pooling. But if parts of it do look completely black, that's okay too. Again, this is supposed to be like a black leather or dark brown leather. Doing it on the boots is going to give a nice contrast against the pants. It's going to make the pants stick out even more, as you can see. I think I want the strap across the front of his chest to be darker, so just go over this like this. It's important to note that we don't want to hit every tiny little area. Like, it's okay to leave the edges brown. So you don't need to hit the deepest recesses. In the case of like this strap, which is up against skin, sort of like run your brush across top. That is good enough. All right. Alrighty. Love it. Next. Again, I think I'm going to do all of their boots a darker color. Because it's just going to make their pant color stand out more. We have green up against black like this. Originally I think I was going to do the hood, but I really like the idea of doing these straps. I think it helps break up the model. Like, you've got a strap that's already going, splitting the model into sections. It's also something that is a consistent part of all of the models, so it'll help tie the models together. And you got shirtless guy, but he's also got one of those black straps, so we'll do that. And then maybe, again, details on the gloves, maybe just the gloves in general, where the fingers are. Yeah, just the entire glove. I like that. This will make the knife stick out better with black gloves. This guy's got, okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Same thing here. I'll call out this guy's strap. This is really going to make the throwing knife stick out more, I think. And then we're going to use Black Templar on his face mask. And then I'll just tie everything together real nice. Yeah. Alright, boots. Boots, 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 boots. These guys went amazingly fast today. as I would have predicted. Sorry, sometimes I go like, oh, I don't have time to paint all of that. Maybe I'll just paint this instead. And I'll like lower my goals. But then I start getting into it. I'm like, no, dummy. You paint fast. You can get it all done. Just do it. Alright. Those gloves. Alright. Boom, bam, boom, bam. Nope. We are on home frickin' stretch here. This is Black Templar. Beautiful paint. Get these great gray highlights with the black. As somebody who painted Black Legion for years with standard acrylic methods, black is notoriously hard to highlight well, but Black Templar makes that easy. Now, I'm almost tempted to go in here and do a line highlight with like a brown wash. I do love this orange, but it always feels like it doesn't give me enough contrast. Pulling out Agrax Earthshade, and we're just gonna very carefully do some line highlights here. Or line shading. Woo! This is incredibly subtle what I'm doing here. Probably not even picking it up on camera very well, but I'm just following these very thin, very fine indentations in the pants and putting some of this brown shade in there. I am putting a little bit more here in sort of the crack of his butt. Again, just trying to add some shade and dimension to this guy, because again, I think that the well, this is a beautiful paint in terms of vibrancy. just don't get a whole lot of contrast with it. And especially with how this guy's pants are, just really want to call out the these little, the tailoring of it. I'm putting a little bit more again on the inner thigh in that kind of place where I want some more shadow. I'll put some like right in here. If I get some on the raised areas, I can always wash that off. It's a very subtle thing, but again, these pants are an area of the model in which people's eyes are going to be drawn to, especially since I've made it such a bright freaking color. I just really want to make sure that it has some dimension to it. And we can get that with this brown wash. Again, just doing it on his pants just to give it some more shading on the underside of the leg and any of those like pant folds. There we go. I think I'm a lot happier with that now. A little bit in here maybe. There we go. Much better, much better. All right. We are into final steps here. Now is time for cake. No, now is time for more discontinued paints. Non oil gloss and Agrax gloss. These are some special versions of the washes that Citadel developed. They never really caught on with people, but personally I love it. These are great washes for putting over metallics because it maintains the glossy sheen on the metallics while also giving you shades on them. So I'm going to use the Agrax first because we have very little gold on these models. Use Agrax for this guy. Oh, this guy's saber hilt right here. As you can see, what it is doing is it is going to just bring back some of the definition after putting on our metallic paint. Some great shade on this cutlass's hilt. Or excuse me, pommel. And put it on the Dragonborn's pommel as well. And on his hilt. Again, what this is going to do is it's just going to give us some shade. Going to give us some variation in the tone on the metal. So it's not all just one big tone. The hilt here, we want to make sure we don't get any on his hand. And then, yeah, just repeat the same process, but now with Nuln Oil Gloss, the arm metallic areas. I'm going to start off with doing his armor because I need it to dry, so that way we can do a couple of highlights on his armor before calling him done. Especially on this area between the armor and the face, we really want to make sure it gets in there. So it creates a bit of color separation, like, you know, a nice separating black line, if you will, between the armor and, in this case, his skin, or the armor and his cape. Now, as I said at the beginning of the stream, unfortunately, somehow over the course of painting this guy, his cape ended up getting really glossy. I tried to bring it down by putting a matte varnish on it, but it still ended up staying really glossy. Now, putting a gloss wash like this over metallic is especially good when you have any kind of chainmail or little tiny like you can see there's like a scratch right here on the armor, like a little crosshatch scratch. And other little fine details. The wash is going to call that out, assuming you put your metallic on thin enough. Trick there is airbrush priming, very thin. Doing your contrast underpaint, very thin. Of course that'll be thin, it's contrast. Making sure it doesn't pool. And then when you do your metallics, again, also just put it on very thin. And so that way when you get to this step, and you're doing the wash, all of those details, again, pop out. You can see the rivets on his leg armor. You can see all these little details on it. I mean, honestly, in a way, it looks better than when it was just contrast. Now that we've got a metallic, and then we've got this glossy wash. Making sure to do this step first, because while his armor is drying, I can be doing other steps on maybe some of the other models, and then go back to him and do some of those little tiny. I just want to do a few highlights on some of the most erased areas, like some edge highlighting with chainmail silver, just to really make it pop. I might even hold up the light and try to do some faux non-metallic metal. I know it's a metallic paint, but you know, the whole point of the non-metallic metal technique is simulating light refractions on metal, which is very different than light refracting on a cloth surface or skin or hair. I guess I could say, you know, instead of non-metallic metal, because again, we're using metallic paints, you know, highlighting it in a way that makes sense for metallic. Just like if you're going to highlight hair, highlighting hair is very different than highlighting cloth. Is the way light refracts through hair. Can't remember who. I think it was Ninjon, or it could be Miniac. I can't remember. Or it could be Squidmar. You know what? It was Squidmar. Squidmar did a really, really good painting tutorial on hair refraction. Really talked about the science of hair and light and why it's different than highlighting, you know, cloth or armor. We're gonna skip this song. Where are we at, browser? Boom. Really try to avoid songs that have talking, but I'm using this royalty-free playlist so that way I don't get in trouble with the copyright gods. Looks like we got more people to join. Welcome. Don't be shy. Ask questions. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your D&D characters. Tell me about your campaign. Happy to talk about anything. Alright. His armor is looking banging. Pretty happy with it. Alright, next steps. What do we got? Ooh, almost forgot. This guy's cutlass. Also needs some gloss varnish or gloss wash. We've also got to hit the rest of the weapons here. Like this guy's dagger, or kukri, or whatever that is. Kind of looks like a kukri, which is a kind of dagger. And this guy's crossbow bits that are the metallic bits on the crossbow. Gotta be really careful when you have metallic next to non-metallic bits like this. I really don't want to get the gloss varnish on the wood because it'll make the wood look real shiny. And part of the thing that's selling the wood as wood is it not being shiny. We want walled wood to look as matte as possible. Looks like nice dry wood. If you notice, I'm not cursing at my tablet today for my stream monitor because I'm using something different now. Been meaning to replace my sort of media PC in the living room with something that was better, but also was multi-purpose and functional. So I got myself a Steam Deck. And my brother helped mod it. So it's dual boot Windows and Steam Deck OS. And so that's allowing me to actually use it as a Twitch monitor right now, just so that I can make sure I'm keeping the shots in frame and watch the chat. Then I can also use it as a portable gaming device or media PC or anything. Multifunctional tools, always good. Just going through here for areas that really pooled badly on our Dragonborn's armor. These gloss washes will, when they dry, be really like thick and opaque if it's pooled heavily in an area. So, you know, a little bit of pooling is okay if you want it to be a place that's like black, but you don't want to like a lot of pooling. Okay. Honestly, I'm feeling pretty good with that at this point. I think next step is going to be doing some dry brushing on these bases. We've got these guys from last time to dry brush the bases. Get that step done while we're waiting for the Dragonborn to dry. Chug some coffee. Grab some paint. Clear our space. All right, let's go. As always with dry paints, you want to just dry them off on a towel. I have to get a little paint on. And then we're just going to work it sideways across the model, making sure to get the edges well highlighted. Get a little bit of this on the boots. That is a-okay. I should have dark leather treated this guy's boots. That would have tied him in better with the other dudes. I guess I still can. Nothing's stopping me. Let's do it. Gotta find our ballisticum gray. Silicum gray. Alright, we should put him back on paint holder. Okay. Alright, let's do all of his boots dark leather colored. Yeah, this guy was feeling a little too two-tone for me. I didn't know how to fix it at the time when I was painting him, but at least it didn't. Yeah, I knew how to fix it. It just didn't dawn on me that, hey, I should just do this. And then we want to get his bracers. Yeah, that's much better. I'll do this pouch as well. Been doing a lot of pouches in the darker color. There we go. That's better. Alright, back to braces. Bases. Dry brushing bases. So, for those who are inexperienced with some of these products, this is a Citadel dry paint. It's called Tyrant Skull. And the advantage of the Citadel dry paints is they're more like a weird paste. And the advantage of it is, you know, if you use a regular paint for dry brushing, you're going to be like really putting the majority of that paint on your paper towel or the back of your hand or whatever method you use. Which, by the way, the back of the hand method is really good if you're using regular paints, because you can sort of judge the dryness based upon how cold it feels. But anyways, this dry paint, you know, you don't have to waste a lot of the paint on your paper towel or whatever, because it's already sort of dry. And really, I'm wiping it on the paper towel, if anything, just to get excess up and just work it into the bristles. Now, as you're dry brushing your bases, if you get a little bit on the boots, you have one of two choices. You can use a wet brush like this, sort of clean it off, or you can leave it on there and it'll just look like your boots are a little bit sandy. And you got some dirt or you know, whatever this is. On your boots. I think getting a little bit on the boots just helps tie the model into the base more too. You know, it doesn't need to be, shouldn't be perfectly clean. You don't want a ton on there. I don't like that huge amount that I just put on there. But as you're dry brushing, if you get just a little on, it's not a big deal. It just makes them look a little dusty. Boom, boom, boom. Now, one thing I will do, if you notice, I'm starting at sort of like the edges first, and then I'll sort of work my way into the middle. That's purposeful because these are like flatter areas with less sharp raised edges. And I'm actually using the edges as a way to take more paint off the dry brush. And so it's not going on as thick when I'm painting these like flatter areas. Also, I want the edge to be the brightest because that's the part that's getting the most sun. It also looks really good later when we do the black base, if we have a really, really bright edge. And then down here, like underneath him, I can still just do a light dusting and I'm not accidentally depositing too much paint in there. What time is it? It is 4:30. Wow, time has been flying. the crew comes. Oh, his base is already done. Don't need to touch his base. This base doesn't feel highlighted enough though. There we go. Alright. Get that washed off. Alright, at this point, hopefully this guy's base, or this guy's armor is dry enough that we can do our very final step before doing the rims. Grabbing chainmail silver here, which is the brightest silver I have. I just need a little tiny bit of it because we are just going to do a few edge highlights. I'm going to get some on the brush, and I'm just going to call out some of these raised areas like this. Do this, highlight his leg, it's sort of cylindrical, so I want to sort of call out how the light would highlight on that. Simulate light catching on this, a little bit here, right in the middle. There, where it'd be catching. Just loosely edge highlighting like that, and this is a very easy, subtle way to get metallic highlights that, yes, it's done with metallic paint, but again, the important thing here is we're accentuating the way the light would be hitting this and reflecting on this armor.
Starcourt Mall is one of the finest shopping facilities in America and beyond. So come on down and remember, Starcourt Mall has it all.
Just really making that armor pop with these highlights. Make sure not to kill too much of our shading. And if you're ever having problems with, again, knowing where to put these highlights, my recommendation would be, just if you have a really bright light like I have here, the light itself is going to help you see sort of where those highlights should be placed, because the light is going to be reflecting off of the metallic paint you already put down. And what we're doing right now is we're just painting in those spaces, and to your eyes, you're painting it, you're going to be like, it's not changing that much, but then when you hold it away in darker light, you'll see that now those highlights are really making that armor pop. That's what we're trying to do, is putting highlights in place so when we're not in perfect ideal lighting situations, those highlights really just make all the details stick out. And boom, I am pretty happy with how he looks, minus the glossiness of the cape, but you know what can you do? I tried to fix it with gloss varnish, but alright. Last and final step is gonna be our rims. So we have all these guys to rim all at the same time. I really like making sure that when I'm doing rimming that I'm doing as many models as possible, which is why I have models from previous days that were already done just sitting here ready to be rimmed. These guys are already done, player character models. Reason being is I like to use a very specific process with my rimming. I use a flat brush like that, and I use Vallejo Black Surface Primer for the rims. Reason for that is I really like how clean the finish is on it. I get consistent smooth paint jobs, and I don't have to worry about how well is it going to cover in a single pass. I always know that it's going to cover really, really well because it's a primer. I'm going to do him last because he's still probably got wet bits on him. Alright. So when putting it on, I like to first of all rotate the model as little as possible. Not rotate. You need to rotate it constantly. Change hand positions as little as possible. So I'll start at one point and I'll go in one direction, making sure there's plenty of paint on so that way I don't see brush strokes. We're not worried about losing detail here. It's a base, it should be smooth. That's more important. So load up plenty of paint on there. And just go around. Painting away at the rim and then pulling towards the bottom. You want to leave it on a paper towel or something like that. You don't want to just put this on a table because there's a lot of excess paint here and it will pool at the bottom. And if you're putting it on like a desk or something that you don't want paint on, well, guess what? You'll get paint on it. Yeah, I'll go in one direction, and I'll go in the other direction. And then I'll rotate my hand like that, bracing my pinky in the bottom of the base for stability. And just go around like so. And sometimes I'll drag. See how I'm like dragging with the lip of the brush like that across the bottom of the base. That's important because I'm intentionally trying to like deposit paint on the brush, or excuse me, deposit paint on the base. If you're putting enough on, if you have any sand or anything like that, or inconsistencies on the smoothness of the finish of the base right now, because we're putting plenty of this polyurethane primer on there, you're going to end up with a nice smooth base in the end, because when it dries, excess paint will sort of go to the bottom and it'll leave a nice smooth, even finish. I've tried many different methods of painting bases over the years, and whenever I do something that's not this process, I'm always disappointed. Sometimes if I'm traveling while painting, maybe I forget to bring the primer, but I've learned that if I ever do that, I just won't finish the rim. I'll do it when I get home, because if I try to use like Vallejo black paint or Citadel black paint, or like I've tried all different kinds of techniques. I used to use Abaddon Black by Citadel, but again, the problem with that is it just A, was a little too glossy for me, but B, I couldn't get the same kind of like smooth finish that I can with this method. I also use the same black Vallejo primer. If I'm doing zenithal highlighting, I'll prime it first with black, and then either using a white ink or a combination of gray and white acrylic paints, or sometimes even the gray primer. I've tried a couple of different ways. Arguably, if you get good at it, white ink is the best way to zenithal prime. Admittedly, I'm not that great at using inks in the airbrush. Ends up being very sort of what's the term? Like, I don't know, I can see sort of like the dustiness of it. I don't know. Not dusty. It's just not as smooth as I would expect. Which is the whole reason why they tell you should use inks. But, you know, your mileage may vary. Also depends on how well you have your airbrush dialed in, your air pressure on your airbrush, that kind of thing. Arguably, I don't zenithal highlight nearly as much as I should. So that's probably part of it. I just haven't perfected that technique. But a lot of times, so I like to say on this channel, I ain't got time for that shit. Not when I have 200 models to paint per campaign. I'm not going to Zenithal highlight all of them. So I have tendency to only do that with really, really big monsters. Or if I'm painting something special, like a 75mm figure for a gift or something. So then I will definitely Zenithal highlight. But for your standard D&D monsters or even hero characters, player characters, I will not Zenithal highlight. That's just a waste of my time. All right. Closing in on getting her done. Eight more models done. So 8 models finished today. On a previous day we did 13. So we are up to 21 models of our 200 or so for this campaign. It's roughly 10%. If you think about it, it's not bad. Started painting last week. We've painted 10% of the models in basically a week. Still Monday. So if we keep up at this pace, it'll take us 10 weeks to paint a whole campaign worth of really awesome minis for Dungeons and Dragons. And we can do that all at once, or we can spread that out over a long period of time. I'm probably going to try to do as much as I can, get ahead of the party as much as possible. Soon my free time is going to be a lot less available. Fingers crossed. And what that will mean is obviously less time for painting, but that's okay. For now, I still have plenty of time on my hands, which means lots of painting, lots of content for you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following, all the people who have followed and continue to join on a regular basis. Shout out to the Mad T-Banger, who continues to show up pretty regularly. Good seeing you, man. I'm happy to hear that your painting journey is going well. I'm going to wrap up now and get ready for folks to be coming over to play Dungeons and Dragons in an hour and 15 minutes. Plenty of time for these bases to dry. And with that, again, thank you everyone. If you know people that might be interested in my content, please send them my way. I'm not doing a whole lot of social media to get attention, so I'm kind of relying on word of mouth and people just discovering me in the Twitch Dungeons & Dragons channel. So share with your friends, share on Facebook, share on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, however you share things. Share via SMS text message. I don't care. Share it with people you think that are interested. I'd be happy to see them join. I want to see this community grow. This is not going to be my full-time gig, but you know what? I do want to help people, show people the ways that I plan for my Dungeons & Dragons games, and I hope that the things that I'm showing will help you create great adventures for your players. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.